First up this morning, we are all looking for things to do right now outside, socially distant. So how about bird watching? It keeps you active, mentally engaged. We were just talking about boosting our intelligence. Plus, it is also proven to make you happy.
And our next guest says that our state is a great place to look for birds. So joining us now is Chuck Hagner. For about 16 years, he was the editor-in-chief of Bird Watching magazine. So he knows his stuff. And now he's the author of this book. It's American Birding Association Field Guide to Birds of Wisconsin. He says there's over 299 birds of Wisconsin in there. And we're so excited to have you here. Thanks for joining us, Chuck.
Hey, it's a real pleasure. It's an honor to be on the show, and I really appreciate it.
Yay.
Yeah, we're excited to have you here. So let's talk about Wisconsin in general. You had said in some of your notes to us that you spent so much time since 2007 in Esther Brook Park, specifically even looking at birds, and you saw over 164 species even there.
Absolutely. Esther Brook Park is one of the, of course, one of the green necklace of wonderful parks that exist in Milwaukee County and that are open to anybody, even during our pandemic. And they serve as resting spots. Spots where birds who are migrating can stop to feed, and they're breeding spots for birds also. And I think that maybe we overlook the fact that these beautiful parks that are in our neighborhoods are there not just for us people, but they're there for birds also, and that they serve a real purpose.
It is so cool. So this book is incredible. It includes a detailed state map, a complete bird checklist, so people can go through and be like, hey, I saw a robin today, or whatever it is, an index, as well as a quick lookup index, which is so helpful to people, I think, especially as they start out. I love that you make the point that Wisconsin is a great place to look for birds. But what I can't get over is I've looked at these numbers before, how popular bird watching is.
Yeah.
Bird watching has so many things to speak to it. It's first of all, I think that it's a very social activity. Bird watchers, as a rule, are generally welcoming of new bird watchers, and they love to share. One of the first things that happens when a bird watcher finds an interesting bird, no matter where he or she might happen to be, is they want to show it to someone else. And this is one of the great things about bird watching, is this idea that there's always something to learn, and there's always someone to learn it with and to share it with.
I love that you mentioned that. I kind of always thought of bird watching as something my parents did, or my aunts and uncles did. And maybe I'm just sort of getting to that age now where when I see a bird, I want to know what it is. And so basically at this point I have knowledge of eagles, and that's about it. But I think what people want to know is how do you learn to identify the bird? So what is the best way? Is it having a guide like this?
I think the guide is an important first step. I would say my first recommendation is to not be afraid. Don't have any fear. I hear from people sometimes that they regard bird watching the same way that they might regard going into maybe a cheese shop or going into a wine store. They think, I don't really know all those vintages, or I don't know all those cheeses, and people might think that I'm not quite as smart as I should be. But my word to everybody is that everybody starts the same way. You go out, you should share your excitement. Bird watchers will be happy to welcome you, and soon you'll realize what all good bird watchers know, and that is that a lot of birds can be recognized almost as easily as a parent recognizes a child on a playground. Your child might be a little bit taller. She might like to play on the swings. Your son might, hold his hands a certain way when he's being talked to. And, these things allow you to recognize your kids from even at a great distance. Now, of course, not every bird is that hard to recognize, is that easy to recognize. Some are quite a challenge, even for experienced bird watchers. But much of what we do is just, like recognizing familiar faces in a crowd, or recognizing family members at a distance. It's doable, and it's not. And I really encourage everybody to just, don't sort of wine and cheese yourself out of doing this. It's a lot of fun. You can do it.
That's such a great analogy, I think,
Yeah.
Chuck. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. What about now during the pandemic when people are mostly shut in? I think people are, have been itching for a while to get outside, and now we finally can. What's it like to be part of bird watching during this pandemic?
Well, I think that it makes me think that bird watching really is that social activity. Each spring I really look forward to bird festivals. Each year, many organizations across the state celebrate World Migratory Bird Day. I know the Wisconsin Society for Ornithology has a great convention each year in the spring. And, we weren't able to do that. We of course, had to minimize our travel. We had to restrict our access to large, keep out at large groups, just like everybody else. And, that whole idea of sharing a bird is a difficult thing because one of the things that bird watchers don't do this year is they don't share their binoculars or their spotting scopes. A lot of times if you and I were out bird watching and I found a cool bird in the spotting scope, I would try to line it up and focus on it for you. And then I'd say, come on over, take a look. And then you would look through the scope and you would see it the same way I did. So we didn't have that. We don't have that opportunity. It pays to keep things in perspective. I think all bird watchers are just like everybody else. We know people have lost jobs and some people have lost loved ones. So, my ability to go out and see a bird is pales in comparison, but still, the effect of the pandemic is it can be felt in sort of a real way in that, as government funding for research in the state has shrunk, a reliance has grown on citizen scientists like you and me to go out and find the birds that maybe a paid state biologist might be looking for in the past. So it has a role, and it's a shame. I guess people are just doing a lot more birding closer to home.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, Chuck. I know you say you can bring birds to the yard by thinking about food, water, and shelter. We're out of time, but I want to give people the information for how to join you with your chat with Dawn and how to get your book. So thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, that sounds great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chuck.
Absolutely. All right, tomorrow night, Chuck will chat with Don Quintez. He's the senior naturalist at Schlitz Audubon Nature Center. They're going to talk about Wisconsin's birds watching, and his new field guide. You can catch the conversation on Zoom. So join in. It's free. You do have to register, though. So we'll provide a link on themorningblend.com, our website for the segment. The book, though, is widely available and, of course, locally at Boswell Book Company as well.
Yeah, and Tiff, I just wanted to mention that his field guide to Wisconsin birds, this is so cool, is one of a series of state guides being published by the American Birding Association, which is so cool for him. It's very impressive, and I think a lot of people just love bird watching.
I know, but I'm not sharing these. Sorry.
Oh, I didn't even see you had those out. Yeah, you got to keep them to yourself. All right.